Chapter 10. Heading for a trouble. Dadaji, grandfather, visits us during summer holidays and comes to stay with us, which makes almost half a year full of fun. It is because firstly, he arrives with the bundles of gifts that no one ever brings for me. Homemade laddus, which are very sweet and tasty, sticks of sugarcane that smell of his fields, papas roll out in his courtyard are some gifts which he brings. I never know which is more fun, opening the bundles or wolfing the stuff down. With Dadaji comes a new order of discipline. Suddenly, Daddy does not want to tweak my ears. Perhaps it reminds him of the years when Dadaji tweaked his. Ma can't spank me because Dadaji clears his throat to show his displeasure. 6 months of sheer freedom. But then, nothing is perfect. There is a little glitch that comes with Dadaji. His dress code. He insists on wearing a spotless white dhoti and kurta topped with a pink turban. The dhoti and kurta are not that bad, but turban? We have tried to tell Dadaji that he can leave his head uncovered.
I always worn a turban,
he counters,
even when I went abroad.
Once, Daddy tried to tell him it was a waste of clothes and effort. Dadaji looked Daddy up and down and said in a tight voice,
You look odd to me in these trousers and shirt and that piece of cloth around your neck. Pitaji, I have to wear a tie to work,
said my daddy in a voice that was only reserved for Dadaji.
If you can tie that cloth around your neck, then why can't I tie one around my head?
Countered Dadaji. One afternoon, when Dadaji snoozed on his charpai, caught in the courtyard, Ishan dropped by. Every winter, Ishan and I prayed for it to rain. Since Dadaji had told us with more mangoes. When the mango flowers bloomed, Ishan and I would watch the bees buzz lazily around their feast. We tripped past Dadaji and picked up 2 tasty mangoes from our favorite branch. Ishan chuckled, Look at Dadaji's turban rising and falling with his breath. When I saw the turban, it seemed to have a life of its own. The pink python, corrected Ishan.
The python? No, the turban is on Dadaji's head.
I tried to reason. Before I could say, the mango dropped on the turban and it was rolling on the floor. Dadaji sat up. He rubbed his eyes and looked at the turban. He picked it up, dusted it and looked around, perhaps for a squirrel. My heart was pounding very hard. I'm certain Dadaji heard it. He looked up. His face was red. I thought he had burst into flame.
Down!
He thundered. My knees turned to jelly and my fat feet like lead. Dadaji looked strange in his bald, turbanless head. He glowed at Ishan.
Go home.
Ishan fled. Dadaji looked at me and said,
What would your father say?
Sorry, Dadaji. I'll never do it again. Please, don't tell Daddy. I pleaded. Dadaji fell silent. He coiled the turban back and planted it on his head.
Will you do what I tell you to?
Sure, I squeaked without hearing him out.
On Independence Day, you would go to your school in a pink turban.
I think a part of me fainted. Dadaji was serious enough to take me up to the market to buy a pink turban and a white kurta pajama. Every evening, he had locked the door of his room and practiced tying the turban. I could not sleep the night before Independence Day. First, I wore kurta pajama. Then Dadaji tied the turban around my head. He strolled out of the house. I couldn't bear to see my friends' faces when the gate of school approached. I shut my eyes and slipped my hand into Dadaji's huge paw. I heard some known voices. That was Boran. What was he saying? Oh wow, is that Sachin? No, it's Sachin's ghost. I wanted to scream, but someone had stuck my voice inside my throat with glue. Aisha cursed from somewhere close to my ear. He looks like a prince. She had to be joking. I opened my eyes, but she looked on as if she had seen a real prince.
Amazing,
squeaked Ishan. Dadaji, will you please teach me to tie a turban? Pleaded Aisha. I puffed myself up and was about to tell her that turbans are only meant for boys when Dadaji declared,
I will teach you all how to tie a turban.
Understand words. Wolfing, taking greedily, spank, slap, glitch, trouble, feast, delicious thing, tripped, walk with light steps or run lightly, pleaded, requested, tweak, pluck ears, displeasure, unhappiness, snoozed, snored,